Thank you all for being here. I'm Steve Wagner with Wagner East Law Firm. With me today is Anthony Maclin, as well as other family members, his father, Anthony Sr., his mother, LaQuanda Brooks. We also have his sister, Danye, down there in the corner, and his grandmother, Vicki Driver, whose house this unfortunate shooting took place in front of. I'm going to make a brief statement today, and then I will open it up for questions. And then also, Anthony is willing to answer a few questions today, as well as Vicki. All right, first a little background on Anthony. He's a 24-year-old young man, grew up in Indianapolis, graduated from Warren Central, played football and baseball, graduated and then started working right away and started a very successful auto glass business in Ohio, where he lives. But he does come back frequently to see his family. It's a very close family, a very close extended family. They spend a lot of time together. And when this unfortunate incident occurred, he was back in town. Didn't tell his family he was coming back, but he had a mission. He was coming in town to get his BMW, which was in the Dryer and Reinbold dealership, being repaired. And like any young man with a nice vehicle, he couldn't wait to get it. So he planned to be there at 7 a.m. the next morning to pick up his vehicle. And he did. He decided to combine that mission with a mission to surprise his grandmother, Vicki, who lived closer to the dealership than anybody else in the family. So he thought he would go to her house and then take her out for breakfast and maybe convince her to help drop off the rental car when he picked up his car. He got into town late and met a friend, got some food, and by the time he made it to his grandmother's house, it was late, after 3 in the morning, and he did not want to wake his grandmother up and incur her wrath. So his plan was simply to stay in the driveway, where he had worked a long day, driven over from Ohio. He was tired, so he drifted off, and then he was awoken by a tapping on the window, turned to look at that tapping, and was met with a hail of gunfire. Why are we here today? Well, it's been 5 weeks since this police action shooting, and what have we heard from IMPD? Crickets. We haven't heard anything other than some vague statements made the date of the shooting and the day after, where they indicate they reviewed the body cam footage from the officers and that it was inconclusive as to whether Anthony pointed a firearm at the officers. Well, we are here today to set the record straight. The family has seen the body cam footage from the officers, and it is not inconclusive. It shows what Anthony remembers, and that is he never grabbed the handgun that he kept in the car. Anthony kept a handgun with him. He has an Indiana license to carry that handgun. He knew that the neighborhood that he was sitting in a car is not always the best neighborhood, and there is crime in that neighborhood. Despite Vicki's best efforts as a community leader in that neighborhood to make it safer, there is crime in that neighborhood. So he had his weapon in the car available to him if he felt threatened. But he never got to grab that weapon or touch it. He was awoken, turned, and then immediately fired upon. Now, IMPD, when they said that video was inconclusive, they also released a photo of his gun in the front seat. And they've also implied that the officers gave commands to Anthony, and the implication being he didn't comply with those commands and that this weapon was used to threaten the officers. That's just simply not correct. It's an incorrect narrative, and we are here today to clear that up. So, where do we go from here? Well, today the family, Anthony and as well as Vicki, filed a tort claim notice against Joe Hogsett, Chief Taylor, and the 3 officers involved, asserting civil rights claims for excessive force. And it's important to understand the excessive force in this case is not just the officer's ill-advised decision to fire initially, but the incomprehensible actions they took in continuing to fire for several seconds. These 3 officers emptied their magazines firing into a car when there was no threat. Now, the photos that the family took afterwards show the car bullet riddled. This is the passenger side. There's one shot that came through, could have taken Anthony out in the head, but thank God didn't. And afterward, one neighbor took a video which shows all of the markings the police put down, this is only some of them, of the shell casings. We believe that as many as 36 rounds were fired into that car. 36, and that takes a while. Anthony will tell you it seemed like forever that they were firing upon him. So, another reason the family wanted to call this conference today was to make a call to action. We know that Chief Taylor has made overtures in the past about wanting more police transparency, but when it comes to body cam footage, there needs to be more transparency and it needs to happen quicker. So the first thing the family is calling for is a release of the unedited body cam footage immediately. I would note that in April of 2021, there was a police action shooting of Makia Bryant in Columbus, Ohio. The National Fraternal Order of Police commended the police department in that shooting for releasing video within hours. And that organization, the National Fraternal Order of Police, stated, quote, "This is a demonstration of what police transparency looks like, getting the facts out before the narrative can be distorted or disinformation takes hold in the community." And that is why we're here today, because by releasing a photo of the gun and saying the video was inconclusive, IMPD is creating a distorted narrative about this incident. Now, Anthony's been too busy trying to recover. He was in the hospital 17 days in the ICU, underwent 6 surgeries, and he's still not feeling well at all. So the family smartly let him recover until we could come here today and he could tell a little bit about his story. Second, we're calling for the employment of all 3 officers involved to be terminated. We understand there's a process to go through, but the chief can announce his recommendation to terminate them. And finally, we ask for the prosecutor's office to carefully consider this case and decide whether criminal charges are indicated, and we believe they are. Sadly, this case, the way it unfolded, where it occurred, and who was involved, leads us to ask troubling questions. Would this incident have happened to a young white man in Noblesville or Carmel or Zionsville? It's a tough question to answer, but it happened to this young man and it should not have. So with that, we'll take some questions. Thank you.
Can we hear from Anthony on what his recollection is that evening from the first moment when he started realizing somebody was banging on his car door?
And then if you could move it out here a little bit.
So did you hear that question, Anthony? Just your recollection of what happened from when you woke up to what happened, okay? You can wait till everybody gets settled here, then in your own time.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, Anthony, I wonder if you can help us understand from the first second you realized somebody was banging on your vehicle, giving you orders or instructions, and then just take us through what happened.
As soon as I heard anything, I immediately wake up and just look to my right and left, and immediately was getting shot at. And from there, I had the order to get out of the car with my hands up, and that's pretty much it. The revival of my life started.
At that particular moment, do you recall where the gun was and where your hands were when those orders were being shouted at you?
When I woke up, my hands were at my side, and the gun had to still be in my lap.
And did your hands, what do you show us with your hands? What do you, because you're sitting like with your hands at your side now, which is how you would have been sitting in the car. Show us what you did with your hands when you heard that first order and then when the gunfire started.
And just to be clear, there were no orders given before the shots.
Well, whatever announcements were made.
The
Go ahead.
only announcements were made when I got out of the car, and that was to put my hands up.
Okay, so nobody said anything to you while you were still in the car before the gunfire?
They just woke me up
Anthony,
from.
what was going through your mind during that traumatic time for you?
I can't even. I mean, I just don't know what was going on. I mean, I had no idea what was happening. It's just, just getting shot at and hearing a bunch of gunshots and not knowing, what's going on. And once I got out of the car, I see my grandmother and disbelief in her eyes. And then I realized a little bit what was going on, that I had been shot and just couldn't breathe, and just pretty much.
How are you doing now?
I'm in a lot of pain. A lot of pain. It's hard to sleep. It's hard to eat certain foods. My breathing is bad. It's so much more that is wrong with me that I'm sure I'm not really stating. But I'm pretty banged up.
Do you feel like you'll walk again?
Yeah. I'm sure if, keep working at it. But pretty hurt. Back hurts really bad. My L5 spine is fractured, or the vertebrae is fractured. Causes a lot of pain. I don't know.
How do you think this will impact you moving forward?
I'm not sure. Hopefully I'll recover and have a good recovery. I'm not sure how things will be.
Anthony, where were you hit?
Right shoulder, lower rib, and then this arm here and out. This arm, I still have bullets that are still inside of me that sometimes I feel like causes pain with breathing, especially the one in my rib cage. It's pretty hard and painful.
Now, a little bit more than a month ago is when it happened, but what are your emotions looking back at it, or your feelings? Is it anger, or what do you feel?
Just disbelief. Someone like me, a hard worker, super caring. I'm like the perfect son, perfect friend.
Don't give yourself too much credit here.
I am. And it's just, I don't know, it's just crazy. Just can't believe it.
What happened afterwards? Did the officers try to jump in and help after they had fired their bullets? Was the ambulance called? What was sort of those next steps? And I'm not sure if you'll recall as well, but
Well, the video shows all three officers dropping F-bombs left and right. They put themselves and Anthony in an extremely dangerous position unnecessarily, and they realized almost immediately what a horrible mistake they'd made, and they verbalized that on the video.
so the F-bombs were out of a panic, so she.
Correct.
That was the tone.
Correct.
Did they try to jump in and help him at that moment?
They did. Anthony could probably answer that, and Vicky could as well.
You want me to answer?
Yeah.
Yes, they did. Several officers tried to help him. They handcuffed him once he got out of the car, and I couldn't understand why. But then, once they moved him and seen that he had a wound in his stomach and he was really bleeding, they did help. And the paramedics were called.
Vicki, do you mind just going through what happened from your point of view? It sounds like you weren't expecting Anthony to come in. He was sort of surprising you guys, and he was in a car that you weren't familiar with. But do you mind just going through what happened from your perspective?
Well, I was woken up because my dog wanted to go outside, and I took him outside, and when I brought him back in, I noticed some taillights, and when I went to the door and looked, I really didn't recognize the car, and so I blinked the lights off and on, and I didn't see anybody. I couldn't see anybody in the car, and so by running, I just was kind of scared that, maybe somebody was doing something they didn't have any business doing, and I didn't really want to go outside in the driveway. So I called 911, and when I called, I do believe that I said it could be one of my grandkids. It's a car, I don't recognize it. And when they came, I never would. It happened so quickly, and I just couldn't understand how did it get from me wanting help to, all they had to do was say, ma'am, there was a young man in the car, and I would have called his name out or anything, but that didn't happen. And next thing I know, one officer did ask me when he was looking at the plates, does your grandkid live in Florida? And I said, no. And next thing I know, I just heard so many gunshots. And I just went out, and, I still said, oh, that could still be one of my kids. And when that door opened, and I seen Anthony, and I said, oh, what have I done? Anthony, I'm so sorry. And, he just said, Grandma, and we just start talking back and forth, and he was trying to, I still don't think he realized how wounded he was. And so when they laid him against the fence, he was just kind of going out. And I was like, Anthony, don't go to sleep. Don't shut your eyes. And he was like, Grandma, I got it. Grandma, I'm going to be okay. But I never would expect anything like this. I mean, I tell people all the time if something's wrong, because being a community leader and head of my neighborhood association, we have a lot of seniors in our neighborhood. And so when something goes wrong, they call me. And I tell them, call the police. After this, I can never tell them that, because this should not have happened. It was so many ways that they could have show me a picture of your grandson if they're looking at him, and I could have showed a picture. Or, yes, ma'am, there's somebody in the car. I could have said, call out his name. Anything but the gunshots. It was just so many.
And this-
So many.
This is not the first time this has happened, unfortunately. You know, a few years ago, there was the Aaron Bailey police shooting, which as part of the settlement of that case, when Aaron Bailey was shot and killed inside a vehicle, part of that was for retraining. Officers were told to slow down, seek cover, and keep their distance from potential deadly force situations. They directly went against that in this case, directly. They knew there was a gun in the vehicle. There was no hurry to get him out of that vehicle. Why not turn your spotlight on? Why not get on your overhead speaker? Why not hit the back of the trunk and stay at a distance? Why surround the vehicle with guns drawn and then awaken somebody and not expect them to move? That's crazy. That's crazy. So, you know, the only thing worse than the officers' training was their aim, thank God. And, you know, but for the grace of God, Anthony wouldn't be here today with us.
Anthony,
Ms. Vicki,
Yes.
you've obviously been part of the kind of sounding board the chief depends on, along with Reverend David Green, when it comes to taking a look at situations like this. Has this shaken your faith or given you any second thoughts about IMPD?
Yes, it has. By me working with them and looking at videos and trying to be a bridge for the community to put trust back in IMPD, I'm very disappointed because by the officers that responded, not being rookies, being people that's been on force for a while, I believe that other measures could have happened. So now, I don't think I want to serve on that board anymore because I have, you know, we just watch the videos. We don't say this or that, you know, and I don't think I could watch another video knowing that someone is going through what we're going through and seeing on television so many things that have happened and other families standing here talking to the news that don't have their loved ones with them. And I can't imagine that. But just imagine what my grandson went through at the hands of someone that is supposed to protect me. Someone that I called just so I could feel safe if somebody was out there or if somebody was in the car. They took that away from me. I don't feel safe. I would never call them again. And, you know, I just hope that people can see in the videos, you know, we see edit videos also. So, you know, maybe going forward, if you can see what is really being seen by the body cam, it makes me wonder now, why is it edit? Why don't we see the raw, what really happened? So, to answer your question, yes, I feel different.
Ms. Vicki, what would you like to say to the officers? What
My message to them is that I don't think they should be on the force anymore. And I hope and I pray that they have feelings and know that they were wrong and they will, given the opportunity, tell the truth about what really happened. And just know that they shouldn't be working as officers that took a vow to protect the community. And now the community that they sworn to protect is afraid to call them. So it wasn't nothing, it was only, put it this way, by the grace of God that Anthony is here. Because 3 people shooting at you over 30 times, to me, you wasn't expecting him to get out of that car talking. And that I have a problem with, and I really hope that they have some type of remorse to know that, you know, he is still alive. He is able to tell his story, and I just hope and pray that justice will come out of this, meaning that their jobs will be taken away. They should not be working. They should not be doing this.
Anthony, what would you say to them?
I don't know what I would say.
It's too early. All right, thank you all for coming. We appreciate your time.